Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned to do a tag. We're doing a tag today. It's Tag Thursday over here at Stately Vaughan Manor. And it's been a long time since I've done one of these. It's been a long time since I've done a tag. I don't know why, they're pretty fun. I don't know why I don't do more tags. Well, here I am doing one. Because recently I was tagged in this tag. I was tagged by Alan over at Big Hard Books and Classics and Greg over at another Bibliophile Reads, because together they created a tag. They created the Edgar Allan Poe tag. The Edgar Allan Poe tag. And I love Edgar Allan Poe. He's one of my favorite writers. He's fantastic. He was fantastic. And he is also one of the most important American writers of all. So a genuine classic writer, Edgar Allan Poe, pretty much virtually responsible for the mystery story, or the detective story, I should say. He pretty much created that, I think, on his own. I could be right, but I think he pretty much did. And, of course, he wrote a bunch of other stuff. He's known for his horror stories. And he also wrote science fiction and some other stuff. He wrote all kinds of stuff. He wrote comedies, humor. I mean, a lot of the times his humor sort of falls flat for me, but that could be just because, I don't know, maybe there's too much time between when he was being humorous and I am reading it. So some of the humor falls flat for me in his humorous stories, but his frightening stories still pack a punch. And he wrote just some great stories, some magnificent supernatural stories. Awesome stuff. Anyway, I was tagged in this tag, and the tag is very short. It's only 5 questions long, I believe, isn't it? It's 4 questions. It's even shorter than I thought. It's 4 questions long. It shouldn't take any time at all to do this tag. It's a wee little thing. It's wee. Anyway, let's get to the tag. I should probably mention, since this tag is so short, how I discovered Poe. Poe is one of those writers that I always heard about. I probably heard about Poe when I was so small that I can't even remember hearing about him. The first time I actually read any Poe, though, was in a paperback book. And I can remember the cover of the paperback book, but I don't remember the title of it. But it was a paperback book of like his best stories or best known stories, and they're always the same stories. and so I read them, and I probably read them. I read them after I read Lovecraft. I read Lovecraft first in another paperback book, The Tomb and Other Stories. And I kind of felt the same way about Edgar Allan Poe in that I realized while I was reading it, that I was so young when I was reading it, that a lot of it was just beyond me. A lot of what Poe was actually doing, I just didn't get because I was, a little kid. But I did like it. I did like it an awful lot. And as I got older, I grew to love Edgar Allan Poe. And of course, I've read everything that he's written, at least as far as fiction and poetry is concerned. He wrote a lot of other stuff. And a lot of that stuff I have not read, actually. But yeah, the fiction and the poetry, I've read all of that. And I'll read it all again. So where was I? I was answering questions, at least I was supposed to be. I'm supposed to be answering questions. Okay, the first question, what is your favorite Poe story? So my favorite Poe story is The Fall of the House of Usher. The Fall of the House of Usher, which you might have heard that title recently because there's a new Netflix television show called The Fall of the House of Usher. Another Mike Flanagan production. He who also did The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor. And before that, he did a bunch of movies like Oculus. He did. He's done some good stuff. Flanagan has. And so I watched the first 2 episodes of The Fall of House of the House of Usher. Of course, it's nothing like the story, but there's some Edgar Allan Poe stuff that Flanagan snuck in there. It's full of Flanagan stuff that you've seen before. It has a very familiar feeling when you watch that show. Let's just say that. And it's like, oh yeah, it's a little different because it's about a crime family instead of like just a normal family or whatever. Which is kind of cool, but at the same time, it's full of stuff you've seen before. You know, the guy looks behind him and there's ghosts up there in the balcony. Turns around, looks back, they're gone. You know, we've never seen that before. Or, you know, he's talking to somebody. You know, Roderick Usher is talking to somebody, and behind that somebody is like a ghost hanging out in the darkness. I mean, you've seen it all before. At least so far, but it's not bad. But it's a far cry from the original story, The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. About this fella who has received a request to come and visit his old pal, Roderick Usher. And there's something wrong with our very nervous friend, Roderick. And there's something very wrong with his sister. And the whole house is creepy. And it's one of those stories that's so short that I don't really want to give anything away, but it has such wonderful atmosphere. The characters are all intriguing. The situation is intriguing. The setting is great. And it's full of over-the-top melodrama in places, including at the end. It just has this fantastic horror story ending, you know, which I appreciate. Like I said, very melodramatic, but I love it. And there are some questions about, you know, what's actually going on in the story and why the things are happening, why are they happening? And, you know, I leave it to you to read it. There are different theories about this story. And one of the theories I think probably makes the most sense is that Roderick and his sister and the house all share one soul. And that is an explanation for why things happen the way they do, particularly the ending. But anyway, The Fall of the House of Usher, which is a story I really like. Every time I've read it, I've really enjoyed it. But, you know, he's written a bunch of other great stories. I mean, there's so many other great stories that I particularly like The Mask of the Red Death. It could be my second favorite story, The Mask of the Red Death. And I have to say this about the Netflix show. In episode 2, they did a little bit from The Mask of the Red Death, and I think they did a good job with that. But yeah, that's my favorite story. I'll shut up about that question now. What is your favorite Poe poem? Well, I should be cool and say one of the more obscure Poe poems and not the Poe poem that every single person knows, which is The Raven. But I'm going to say The Raven because, to be perfectly honest, it's not cool to say this, but it is my favorite Poe story. It's just, it deserved all the accolades that it received. And Poe became famous because of that poem. And he deserved it. He deserved it. And yeah, so there you go. There you go. Do you have this is question number 3. Do you have a Poe t-shirt? A t-shirt? What, like with a t-shirt with like a picture on it? That's t-shirts are underwear. Don't you guys know that? You t-shirts go underneath your clothes. Nobody's going to see the t-shirt, right? If you're dressed properly. Anyway, I guess some people have t-shirts with pictures on them. And no, of course not. I don't have. No. I would, you know what? I would wear an Edgar Allan Poe tie. I would wear an Edgar Allan Poe tie or a tie with ravens on it. That would be cool, actually. I need to get one. I should have got one of those before I did this tag. I wasn't thinking ahead. Okay. How many Poe books do you currently have on your shelves? Well, I took them. Actually, I'm forgetting one. Hold on, I'm forgetting one. Okay, I got them all. There is one that I wasn't able to get. Actually, there was a few. There's one, though, that I'm thinking of, which is the Library of America edition of the complete tales and poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I have that one in a box. I have all of my Library of America volumes boxed up. Sometime within the next, because I had construction done, so I had to pack stuff away. Now that construction is over, so I'm going to make a new shelf. And I have the spot all ready for it. And it's going to be my Library of America bookshelf. So I'm going to have a bookshelf. I'm going to put all my Library of America volumes on there. Might not do that this weekend, but hopefully by next weekend I have that done. And so I will show you guys all that. But anyway, there's Edgar Allan Poe amongst the rest of my Library of America volumes, so I can't show you that one, but I do have some other ones that are really cool. Let me make some space here. So the big one is this other volume. This is the Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. This is another edition of it, and this is the fancy pants one that I have. It's usually right there on the top shelf. This is just a Barnes & Noble edition, but this is the old Barnes & Noble edition. This has been replaced by Barnes & Noble a couple of times. But when they first were coming out with their leather-bound editions that they used to sell, this was their version, and I love it. I mean, I love the design of this. It's very simple. It's got the raven on the back, and I love the lettering and the raven on the front. Barnes & Noble has done this thing where for their leather-bound editions, or they're not really leather, but they're pretend leather-bound editions, they've become gaudier and gaudier and gaudier. And until I'm surprised there's not like jewelry or something hanging off some of these volumes. I liked the older set of Barnes & Noble because, it showed some restraint, and they're nice. They're really nice looking. Anyway, this is the Complete Tales and Poems, and it has with selections of his critical writings. So this has some of those in there too. But yeah, it has all the tales, has Arthur Gordon Pym, his novel-length story. It's great. It's fantastic. I love this particular volume. And if I were to read, actually, I don't know. I probably will end up reading the Library of America edition when I read it again, because that one is more complete than this one is. But this one's so pretty and nice, and I really, really like this one. So that one's on my shelves. Another one, which is really cool, is this one. This is the Annotated Poe. The Annotated Poe. And this is edited by Kevin J. Hayes. And it's a really nice volume. I also have somewhere, it's packed away, but somewhere I have a complete Edgar Allan Poe that's annotated. And that was published, I think, in the 70s or 80s. It was a while ago. It's an older book. And it's really, really big. But this is a newer edition of a lot of those Poe stories, the same Poe stories you'll see in many different Poe editions, including, of course, The Fall of the House of Usher, but it also has some poems in here. I believe it has some poems, yeah. And it has, all of those stories, like I said. William Wilson is in here. Berenice, A Tale, The Gold Bug, The Black Cat, The Purloined Letter, The Telltale Heart, The Pit and the Pendulum, The Mask of the Red Death, and a bunch of others. There are actually quite a few stories in here. Poe wrote some short stories, some short stories. And yeah, this volume is very generous with its notes. You see in the margin there, a lot of notes. And of course, there are a lot of illustrations in this volume as well. I have to admit that I have not actually read this annotated volume. I don't know why I haven't read it. Like I said, a whole page of notes there. I don't know why I haven't read it, but I haven't read this one yet. So I should actually put this on a future TBR. I will put this on a future TBR so I could read the annotated Poe, because I'm sure this is full of interesting stuff that I do not know. So yeah, there's that. Also, this is the portable Edgar Allan Poe from Penguin. And I was thinking, see, now I don't know which Poe to read, because I think I'm probably, now that I'm thinking about it, I'll probably read the annotated one, because that probably... But see, but this one has a bunch of other stuff in it, like letters and things. I don't know, I'll read them both eventually. But Penguin did these great portable volumes of authors where you have a selection of the fiction, and if they did nonfiction of authors, and to give you just a sense in one volume of all the different kinds of things an author would write. And so this one has letters, it's got various nonfiction and criticism, and all of those stories you would expect from an Edgar Allan Poe volume. So this one's really cool. Probably my favorite Poe book that I have is this one, which, yes, it is very old and beat up. It is Poe's Poems. But it's old and beat up because it's from 1874. So it's not the oldest book I have, but it's one of the oldest books I have. So yeah, Poe's Poems from 1874. At least it was given as a gift in 1874. It was given for Christmas. Lillian Piper. Yeah. It was given to Lillian Piper December 25th, 1874. So that's kind of cool. I've got your book, Lillian Piper. She's probably not around anymore. But it's really cool, and it's got some illustrations there. And it's just a really, really cool volume. That was Annabel Lee, which is another really, really good poem. It's got Haunted Palace. It's got all kinds of things in here. Yeah. Bridal Ballad. It's cool. It's cool. So yeah, Poe's Poems. What's left of it from 1874. So there's that. Was that the last question? Let me see. Yeah, that was the last question. That was the last question. Of course, I also have a bunch of various Poe paperbacks. I don't know why I have all of these. I literally have everything, but I also have just various, like I've got the Bantam Classics editions of Poe and different boxes. They're just packed away because I really like this author. So, what do you do? So yeah, that's the Edgar Allan Poe tag. I guess I've said everything. So it's a matter of tagging people now. Who should I tag? Who should I tag? Hold on a second. Okay, so I consulted with Roger on who I should tag. So the first person I'm only gonna tag a couple people. The first person I'm gonna tag is Cliff's Dark Gems. Cliff's Dark Gems, which is a wonderful, absolutely wonderful channel that mostly deals with horror. Cliff is pretty much an expert on horror fiction, and he has such passion about the subject. But he also reads some other things as well. But it's mostly horror, so of course, this tag, Cliff should do it. He might have already been tagged, I'm not sure, but let's give it to Cliff. And I will tag Shelly Swearingen. And I will tag. Who else am I gonna tag? Disshelved with Adam White. Disshelved with Adam White, which is still one of my very favorite channels. I love that channel. Adam usually comes up with a video once a week, and I should always comment, but I don't, because sometimes I'm like eating breakfast or washing something or something. But I always watch Disshelved with Adam White because it's such a great channel. So yeah, I'll tag Adam White, Disshelved at Adam White. So there you go, 3 people. That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, my friends, I will catch you next time. I actually don't know if I'm going to have a reading report up this weekend because it's been one of those weeks. I'm still reading The Talisman. I have some thoughts on that book, but I don't know if I'll get a report up this weekend. We'll see, but I'm definitely going to do a Robert E. Howard show because I've got some Conan to talk about to finish up the books that I read for Cimmerian September. Okay, guys, I will catch you then.